real quick Diddy update. They're coming up with whatever excuse they can come up with to deny him bail, to add more charges. They keep him locked up, keep him restricted, just keep him clamped down. Now, I'm not trying to say this man is a saint or anything like that, or he's just not getting any justice at all. So, as I've said before to many people personally, he ain't getting out. They realize they ain't gonna be able to burn his money up. So now they gotta just keep hitting him with charges. So, without further ado, let me drop a receipt on you right now.
Diddy's violence shown throughout his trial could end him up with a more severe sentencing. A lot of people are confused why the judge just denied Diddy's bail based on him being violent and it being shown and admitted during trial. I'm about to break it down how violence or coercion can play a part in Diddy's 2 transportation to engage in prostitution charges. Now, Diddy is being charged under the Mann Act for those 2 charges of transportation to engage in prostitution. And the way it's worded is very broad. Immoral purposes is intentionally broad and has been interpreted to include various forms of coercion and control, including physical violence. I assume now this is why we hear the prosecution saying they're actually trying to push for more time for Diddy, because if violence is used to force someone into engaging in prohibited activities such as prostitution, it can be considered part of a moral purpose that falls under the Mann Act. And if the judge does believe that violence or coercion were used during these illegal criminal activities, it would actually up the sentencing factor. This is basically why the judge said today that he can't let Diddy out on bail, because he was found guilty of 2 transportation to engage in prostitution charges, but there is evidence of violence, coercion, and subjugation in connection with the acts of prostitution at issue. Record here contains evidence of all 3. Even though the judge said don't mistake this, because this part is not me saying which way I'm leaning in sentencing, because he has a lot of things that he has to investigate and consider before he has that sentencing hearing. But violence or coercion or both would actually up the sentencing guidelines even more. So the prosecution will come in with all of their arguments why they believe Diddy should get more time, and I believe their arguments will contain things like the witness statements. Like, witnesses can come in and give testimony basically to the judge on why they believe Diddy should be sentenced to a good amount of time. Another big thing that I already know they talked about is the fact that it's not just Cassie and Jane. Also, it's all of these different workers. So I think the prosecution is going to hone in on that. Another factor that I think the prosecution might hone in on is the fact that Diddy kept on doing these crimes even after Cassie, and like they said during trial, even when knowing that he was under investigation. I'm sure we'll hear the prosecution even talk about how Diddy supposedly went to turn himself in and they arrested him in New York, and when they raided his hotel, he had all of the freak-off supplies. You can assume they'll probably bring up all of the violence, especially with Jane, because it is connected to the Mann Act, because it was shown in this case. And when they bring up Jane, they are probably going to say how Diddy once again said, is this coercion? And I'm sure another thing that the prosecution is going to bring up once again in that sentencing hearing is the fact that Diddy allegedly threatened Cassie and Jane both to release their freak-off tapes if they didn't stay compliant. A lot of people have been confused from the get-go when it came to violence or coercion and all of Diddy's charges, but this is kind of a rundown of how you can see how and why the judge ruled the way he did on bail, because like he said, violence and coercion are in this case. He's saying there's evidence of it, and the judge has been saying that Diddy even admitted it during testimony during his trial. And all of that will play in big time on how the judge determines sentencing, because like I said, if violence or coercion he thinks played a part in these transportation to engage in prostitution charges, it would up the sentencing that much more. One thing Diddy does have that might work in his favor a little bit is the fact that they look at a defendant's criminal history when they sentence them also. Technically, Diddy's last crime in 1999, he was acquitted. So Diddy technically is someone that doesn't have a criminal record. Now, if Diddy did in fact have a criminal record that he wasn't acquitted of, then that would make him get more time. But because Diddy technically technically doesn't have a criminal record in the past because he was acquitted, that would actually make it better for Diddy and he could receive a little less time. Based off what I see, which is a big deal, I think this is why the feds are saying that they're probably going to ask for more time at that sentencing hearing due to violence and coercion, because technically it can be charged under the Mann Act. I think that this is why we might be seeing Diddy right now moving to try to get the whole acquittal of those charges or a brand new trial altogether for those two charges. Might even explain why he's been trying to get bail when he literally only has 2 months until his bail hearing anyway. Because Diddy technically could feel like, okay, I'm probably not going to get out of jail. I might do 5 years for these two charges if they in fact try to add the violence or coercion and aspects of these two charges. Something we don't know for sure. The judge will have the final say, but this is a very big thing that I think a lot of people should know, and a lot of people are confused on why the judge is denying Diddy's bail when it comes to violence or coercion. And it's because it was shown in this case, Diddy admitted it during trial, and it does in fact tie in to the two charges that Diddy is being charged for. Y'all let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments.